Geoff Neal is pulling out.
Okay, why?
He has he's saying, and he's not been able to train.
Okay. 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 We know the truth. Okay. The moment you said that, you sent that message, I knew it. Geoff Neal's a bitch.
There's no way, man. The worst card of the year just got worse. Yes, guys, UFC 330, which is already buns. It has a great main event carrying it, but also has the potential to be a very boring fight. Another fight just fell through. Geoff Neal just pulled out. Another fight from UFC 330 has been removed. Geoff Neal, he's a fan favorite. He's actually one of the most exciting fighters that's on this lackluster card. And now he's gone. And you know what, guys? Maybe there's somebody to save the day. Michael Morales has been posting like he's fighting on UFC 330, except for those rumors are starting to get shut down is what it appears. Because Michael Morales is doing what he does best, what he's done before, lied. Lied right to our faces. He does not have a fight booked. It's not looking too promising. He's just the backup. And yeah, I'll give y'all a good look at it. Here's the final product. Maybe they add 1 or 2 more fights, but we're less than 2.5 weeks away. I don't know how you can make it much better in that short time period. So yeah, hopefully nothing follows through with Islam or Garry, because that is the only fight, and I mean only fight on this card that I'm excited about. Of course, Oral Boss fighting, you know, it's cool. Come on, bro.
What is going on, fight fans, and welcome back to the channel. We are officially closing in on one of the most highly anticipated and now slightly chaotic cards of the entire year, UFC 330. The UFC is making its grand return to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on August 15th, bringing the Octagon back to the Xfinity Mobile Arena. The stakes could literally not be higher. We are talking about 2 massive title fights, a stacked main card, and a crowd that is world famous for being one of the rowdiest, most electric, and unforgiving in the entire world of sports. But as any longtime mixed martial arts fan knows, the MMA gods always demand a sacrifice. The road to a massive pay-per-view is rarely a smooth one, and today, they collected their toll. We have massive breaking news regarding the main card. UFC 330 has taken a major hit, and a highly pivotal women's flyweight matchup with serious championship implications has just been scrapped from the Philadelphia lineup. On top of covering that breaking news, today we are going to dive incredibly deep into the absolutely phenomenal main event for the undisputed welterweight strap between Islam Makhachev and Ian Machado Garry. Plus, we'll break down the controversial decision to make undefeated prospect Michael Morales the official backup fighter for the main event, and what to expect from our co-main event where Mackenzie Dern kicks off her strawweight title reign against the deadliest submission specialist in the division's history, Jillian Robertson. Let's start with the bad news first. Multiple reports, initially broken by MMA Junkie and confirmed across the board, have announced that top 5 women's flyweight contender Erin cold-blooded Blanchfield has been forced to withdraw from her UFC 330 bout against Jasmine Jasudavicius. This is a massive bummer. There is simply no other way to frame it. Blanchfield was looking to definitively cement her spot in the upper echelon of the 125-pound division and secure a guaranteed title shot. According to the reports coming out of her camp, Blanchfield has suffered an undisclosed injury in training, making this the very first time in her entire UFC career that she has had to pull out of a scheduled fight. Think about that for a second. In a sport absolutely plagued by injuries, brutal weight cuts, staph infections, and freak accidents on the mat, Blanchfield has been one of the most reliable, active, and consistent fighters on the entire roster. She was coming into this August 15th clash riding high on a 2-fight winning streak, having secured back-to-back hard-fought victories over 2 massive names in the sport, former strawweight champion Rose Namajunas and the highly touted rising star Tracy Cortez. Blanchfield currently sits comfortably at number 4 in the women's flyweight rankings. This fight with Jasudavicius was supposed to be the final hurdle. It was supposed to be the statement performance that proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that she deserves a crack at whoever holds the gold next. On the flip side of this equation, you have to feel completely gutted for Jasmine Jasudavicius. Jasmine was preparing to walk straight into enemy territory, or at least very hostile neutral territory in Philly, looking to capitalize on the single biggest opportunity of her mixed martial arts career. She just put on a phenomenal gritty performance back in April, beating Karine Silva by unanimous decision. She showed vastly improved striking, relentless cardio, and an iron chin. Jasudavicius was desperate to extend that momentum and steal Blanchfield's top 5 ranking. So what exactly is the UFC matchmaker's plan here? Well, instead of scrambling to find a short-notice replacement to keep Jasudavicius on the Philly card against an unranked opponent, the UFC is currently eyeing a completely rescheduled date. Inside sources are indicating that the promotion wants to push this exact matchup back to the UFC Fight Night card scheduled for October 17th in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. If this materializes, it drastically changes the psychological and atmospheric dynamic of the fight. Moving the bout to Edmonton means Jasmine Jasudavicius will essentially have the home country advantage. The Canadian crowd will absolutely rally behind her, turning what would have been a neutral venue in Philadelphia into a fiercely hostile environment for Blanchfield. We will keep you updated as we learn more about the exact severity of Blanchfield's injury and how long she will actually be sidelined, but for now, UFC 330 loses a phenomenal, high-stakes fight that was guaranteed to deliver. But we are not going to dwell on the negative today, because even with the tragic loss of Blanchfield versus Jasudavicius, the top of this UFC 330 card is pure, unadulterated fire. Let's talk about the main event. Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Garry for the undisputed UFC welterweight championship of the world. Let's set the stage and look at the history here. Islam Makhachev has done the unthinkable. Moving up from his natural home at 155 pounds, he has taken over the welterweight division, continuing the terrifying Dagestani legacy that Khabib Nurmagomedov cemented years ago. Makhachev is entering this bout with an astonishing 28 wins and only a single fluke knockout loss from nearly a decade ago. He is the pound-for-pound king of the sport. He has cleared out generations of challengers at lightweight, and his transition to welterweight has been nothing short of seamless. His striking has evolved to a level where he is comfortably outstriking elite, lifelong kickboxers, and his grappling, well, we don't even need to talk about his grappling. It's an overwhelming, suffocating force of nature. It feels inevitable. And now, standing across the octagon from him, carrying the weight of an entire nation on his shoulders, is Ireland's own Ian Machado Garry. Garry is 17-1, sitting firmly at the absolute pinnacle of his physical prime. The 28-year-old Irishman has faced his fair share of intense criticism and viral drama outside the cage, but you absolutely cannot deny what he does when the octagon door locks and the referee signals the start of the fight. Garry brings a completely different, highly complex puzzle for Makhachev to solve. Standing at 6'3" with a 74-inch reach, Garry has a massive physical advantage over Makhachev, who stands at just 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. This fight is the classic grappler versus striker matchup, but evolved for the modern, highest level of the MMA era. Garry's movement inside the cage is poetic. He fights incredibly well on the outside, utilizing a long, piston-like jab, devastatingly fast calf kicks, and lightning-quick boxing combinations to keep his opponents at bay. His footwork is going to be the absolute key in this fight. If he allows his back to hit that octagon fence, if he stops circling and lets Islam cut off the cage, Islam Makhachev is going to wrap his hands around Garry's waist, drag him down into deep waters, and drown him. But here is where the tactical breakdown gets genuinely fascinating. Makhachev is not a one-trick pony, and he is not just a wrestler anymore. We saw him knock out Alexander Volkanovski with a perfectly timed head kick. We've seen him stand in the pocket and trade violent hooks with Dustin Poirier. Makhachev truly believes in his hands. Will his ego, or perhaps his supreme confidence, tell him to stand and strike with Ian Garry? If Islam tries to play a pure kickboxing game with a guy who is 4 inches taller, vastly longer, and highly evasive, he might run directly into a sniper's bullet. But if Islam simply uses his striking as a smokescreen to close the distance, get in on the hips, and chain wrestle, it could be a very long, very exhausting, and ultimately dominant night for the champion. Now, staying on the topic of this monumental main event, we have to address the elephant in the room, the official backup fighter. The UFC recently announced that undefeated Ecuadorian prospect-turned-contender Michael Morales is the official backup for this welterweight title clash. This single decision has sent the MMA community into a complete frenzy, sparking a massive, polarizing debate online. Morales is a perfect 19-0. At just 26 years old, he is arguably the most terrifying rising physical force in the 170-pound division. He recently shut the lights out on Neil Magny and followed it up with a spectacular, violent finish that proved he is championship material. On one hand, the UFC naming him the backup is a massive badge of honor. It shows that Dana White, Hunter Campbell, and the matchmakers view him as a bona fide superstar in the making. He is officially one twisted ankle in training camp, one bad weight cut on Friday morning, or one unexpected illness away from fighting for the undisputed world title, all without having to risk his undefeated record against another dangerous top 5 contender. It is the absolute golden ticket. However, being the backup fighter is widely considered one of the most psychologically taxing and unrewarding jobs in professional combat sports. Michael Morales is currently going through an entire, grueling, bone-breaking training camp. He is sparring hard rounds, he is strictly dieting, he is doing the early morning road work, and most importantly, he has to drain his body to hit exactly 170 pounds by Friday morning. And he is doing all of this with the very real, highly likely possibility that he won't even step foot in the cage, won't get his full show and win purse, and will absolutely not get the glory of performing under the bright lights on Saturday night. Furthermore, how do you even train for this specific scenario? Think about the logistical nightmare of his fight camp. Morales has to prepare for 2 completely diametrically opposed styles. On Monday, he has to train to defend the relentless, world-class sambo, chain wrestling, and southpaw striking of Islam Makhachev, just in case Garry pulls out. But then on Tuesday, he has to completely shift gears and prepare for the elusive, rangy, sniper-like, orthodox karate striking of Ian Machado Garry, just in case Islam pulls out. You are essentially training blindfolded, preparing for a ghost. Securing this spot guarantees him the next title shot in theory, but we all know that in the wild west of the UFC, promises are written in pencil. If he steps on the scale and misses weight by even half a pound, he loses his guaranteed title shot and severely fractures his relationship with the UFC brass. Moving down the card to the co-main event, we absolutely cannot ignore what is happening in the women's strawweight division. UFC 330 is delivering a fascinating stylistic clash for the 115-pound title. We have the newly crowned champion Mackenzie Dern, making her very first title defense against the incredibly dangerous Gillian Robertson. This fight is a grappling aficionado's absolute dream matchup. Mackenzie Dern has been on an incredible cinematic journey to get to this point. From being heavily criticized early in her UFC career for consistently missing weight and having a strictly one-dimensional skill set, she has completely reinvented herself. She has evolved into a well-rounded, complete mixed martial artist. Under her new coaching staff, her striking has dramatically improved. She is showing genuine pop in her right hand. She throws combinations with violent intent, and she isn't afraid to take a punch to give one. But make no mistake, her bread and butter is, and always will be, her world-class ADCC-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When Dern gets a fight to the mat, it is usually just a matter of time before she isolates a limb or secures a neck. She fought tooth and nail through personal adversity to capture the strawweight crown, and now the championship target is squarely on her back. Stepping up to the plate to take that crown is Gillian the Savage Robertson. Now, if you know anything about the women's divisions in the UFC, you know that Gillian Robertson is essentially the Grim Reaper of the ground game. She holds the record for the most submission victories in UFC women's history. Robertson does not care about your black belt. She doesn't care about your grappling credentials. If you leave a single opening in a scramble, she will exploit it and put you to sleep. What makes this co-main event so deeply intriguing is the grappling math. Usually, when 2 elite grapplers face off in the octagon, a weird phenomenon occurs. Their ground skills completely cancel each other out. They respect each other's submission game too much, and we end up watching a sloppy, 25-minute, low-volume kickboxing match. But neither of these women are particularly known for wanting to keep the fight on the feet. Both desperately want this fight on the ground. Dern has the heavy BJJ accolades, multiple world championships in the gi and no gi, but Robertson has adapted her grappling purely and brutally for MMA. Her top pressure, her vicious ground and pound, and her transitional jiu-jitsu are violently tailored specifically for the cage. If this fight goes to the mat, who actually has the edge? Does Dern's pure, technical BJJ brilliance trump Robertson's opportunistic, grinding MMA grappling? Or does Robertson catch the champion slipping in a wild scramble? Dern will likely be the heavy betting favorite walking into the arena. But I am telling you right now, do not sleep on Gillian Robertson. She has a very clear, very real path to victory if she can dictate exactly where the grappling exchanges take place. So let's take a quick look at where UFC 330 stands right now. The loss of Erin Blanchfield is undoubtedly a tough pill to swallow for the hardcore fans making the trip to Philadelphia. That fight was a guaranteed high-paced war that would have finally clarified the murky title picture at 125 pounds. But looking at the bright side, the foundation of this event is still absolutely rock solid. You have the historic return to Philly, a city that demands violence and respects heart. You have Mackenzie Dern aiming to prove her championship validity against a historically dangerous submission artist. You have the undefeated phenom Michael Morales lurking in the shadows, cutting weight, and waiting for an opportunity to shock the world. And, of course, you have a main event that could easily be a Fight of the Year contender. Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Garry is one of those incredibly rare fights where two completely opposite combat philosophies collide at the absolute highest, most elite level of the sport. The Dagestani wrestling machine versus the Irish striking prodigy. I cannot wait for August 15th. The Xfinity Mobile Arena is going to be shaking to its absolute core. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will catch you in the next one.